Once you've completed photographing your subject, you're going to upload your images into a OneDrive folder named Hockney, and then complete the following steps in Photoshop. I'm going to demo the way that you have the most control. It's actually the quickest and easiest way, even though the computer's not doing the work for you. So the first thing you want to do is create a new document. You're going to go into Art and Illustration and just do a 1080p. Now, depending on your subject matter, you're going to have to decide what orientation is. I took a portrait subject matter of 2 vases, and I'm going to name it Bordeaux Hockney Collage. We're going to create that, and then I really want to just make my Photoshop window a little bit smaller so that I can see my Finder window. So I've resized them so that they both fit on my screen, and then I'm going to go into my Hockney and I'm going to drag in my images. By hitting V on my keyboard, okay, I can now adjust the size. If I hold my cursor over one of the corners, the arrow turns into a curved arrow, and I can adjust it. I'm just going to go one by one and put together my collage. If I find that I have made my collage too big and I can't fit it, what I can do after double clicking is make sure that auto select is on. Starting outside of my canvas, which is this dark gray area, I can draw a box over everything, and you can see all of the layers are selected, and I can make them all a little bit smaller. Every time you make any kind of change, you need to double click inside of this bounding box, okay, to accept the changes. So I'm just going to go ahead and keep creating my collage. When you've got your setup the way that you want it, you're going to add a layer style to each layer to give it a three-dimensional look. There are 2 ways to add a layer style. When you do this, you want to select an image on the top that you can see, and we're going to add a drop shadow. You can come down here to FX, which is on the bottom, and click on drop shadow, and it'll pull up this dialog box. Now the automatic one is pretty intense, not necessarily what we want. You just want to sort of change the distance a little bit because we don't want it to be that spread out. And you can see it sort of changing a little bit on my screen, and we're going to turn the size down. Then we hit OK. Now you can go through and click FX drop shadow on every single one, and it will keep what we just had, okay? Or you can, I still think that might be a little bit too much. You can click on one of the layers that you've already put a layer style on, right click, and you're going to go down until you see copy layer style. Then click on the top layer, go all the way down to the layer right above your background, hold down Shift and select all the layers. You can also select all the layers by dragging a box around your whole canvas. Then you right click in this gray area next to the layer name and go down to Paste Layer Style. Okay. I don't really like this layer style, so I'm going to go back and change my drop shadow on that top one to make it a little bit less spread out. So I can also access this same panel, the layer style panel, by double clicking next to the layer name. But I'll do the same way I did before. So we just click on drop shadow, and I'm going to change the spread a little bit. Now it's hard to see which layer I'm actually affecting, but it's this one right here. Okay, and you can see that when I change this. Okay, So I don't want it to be as spread out. I want it to be a little bit more angular. Okay. Now I have to go back, paste that or copy that layer style, and then I'm going to drag a box around all my layers, and then I'm going to copy or paste my layer style. You can see that looks a little bit better. Now the last thing we're going to do is change the background color so that it's not white, so it looks like it's matted on a board like a regular collage would be. We're going to do that by unlocking our background and then double clicking on this rectangle that represents our background color. Okay. It'll bring up layer styles again. This time we're going to do what's called a color overlay. Okay. When you click on the actual words, not just check off the box, it'll bring you to your options for that layer style. We're going to double click on our color picker, which is this little rectangular box that is the color of the background. If you hover over any one of these, you can see that an eyedropper tool appears, and you can click around until you find a color that you think goes well with your piece. If you don't find colors, I'm a neutral person, so I always am going to choose a neutral color. I like this one, but you can choose whatever color you want. And if for whatever reason you're not finding a color using the color picker, you can also just drag or click around the prism. I'm going to go back to a nice neutral. You hit OK, and you're done. You want to make sure you save as, and to post on Teams, remember you have to change it to a JPEG. You can just hit OK, and that's it.